The music pulsed like a heartbeat, a thundering bass line shaking the courtyard of Westbridge University. Ethan Carter, all of 19, spun on his hands, legs slicing through the air in a flawless breakdance flare, sweat gleaming on his brow. Every eye in the crowd was on him, but he only saw the chance to prove he belonged. It was the freshman welcome event, a chaotic blur of new faces, booming speakers, and nervous excitement. Ethan, a scholarship kid from a small town in Ohio, felt the weight of every stare. He'd fought tooth and nail to get here, leaving behind a family that didn't understand his dreams or his quiet, burning need to be more than they expected. The breakdance circle was his stage, his escape, his rebellion against a world that tried to box him in. Across the circle, Riley Parker leaned against a lamppost, arms crossed, their short blue hair catching the late afternoon sun. At 20, Riley was a sophomore, already a campus legend for their sharp wit and unapologetic presence. Non-binary, fiercely independent, and always a little guarded, Riley had seen plenty of cocky freshmen crash and burn. But Ethan, there was something about him. The way his movements flowed, raw and precise, like he was pouring his soul into every spin. Riley's lips twitched into a half smile. This guy's got fire. The DJ switched tracks, and the crowd roared as the beat dropped harder. Ethan landed a freeze, one hand planted, body suspended, eyes scanning the circle for his next challenger. He didn't expect Riley to step forward. The crowd parted, whispers rippling. Riley wasn't a dancer, not publicly, at least, but something about Ethan's intensity pulled them in. They tossed their jacket aside, revealing a loose tank top and a glint of defiance in their eyes. "You think you own this circle?" Riley called, voice cutting through the noise. Ethan's grin was instant, sharp, and a little reckless. "Only if you can't take it from me." The challenge was on. They moved in sync, then against each other, bodies weaving through the rhythm like a conversation without words. Ethan's power met Riley's grace, their steps a dance of push and pull. The crowd faded. The world narrowed to just them two strangers. One moment, a spark igniting. By the time the music stopped, they were breathless, inches apart, the air between them electric. The crowd erupted, but Ethan and Riley didn't hear it. Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, neither moved. It wasn't just the dance. It was something deeper, something neither could name yet. Ethan collapsed onto the grass later that evening, the event winding down, the courtyard now scattered with students chatting under string lights. His muscles ached, but his mind was alive, replaying every second of that dance. Riley. They were unlike anyone he'd ever met. Bold, unreadable, magnetic. He'd grown up in a town where different was a dirty word, where his own questions about himself were buried under layers of fear. But Riley, they wore their truth like armor. He spotted them across the courtyard, laughing with a group of friends. Ethan's heart did a strange flip. He wasn't supposed to feel this way, not so fast, not so strong. He'd come to Westbridge to focus, computer science degree, stable job, a future his parents couldn't dismiss. Love, attraction, whatever this weighs, it wasn't part of the plan. Riley caught his eye and waved him over. Ethan hesitated, then stood, brushing grass off his jeans. "Nice moves out there," Riley said as he approached, their tone teasing but warm. "Didn't think a freshman could keep up. Didn't think a sophomore would try." Ethan shot back, matching their smirk. They talked, words flowing easily about music, classes, the absurdity of campus traditions. Riley's laugh was infectious, and Ethan found himself leaning closer, hanging on every word. But when Riley's hand brushed his, a casual graze, Ethan froze. The touch sent a jolt through him, unfamiliar and terrifying. "You okay?" Riley asked, their voice softer now, eyes searching his. Ethan nodded, but his mind screamed, "What am I doing?" He'd never let himself explore this part of him, the part that wondered, that felt drawn to someone like Riley. Back home, it was a secret he'd locked away. Here, with Riley's gaze holding his, that lock was starting to crack. The next week was a blur of classes and late-night study sessions. But Ethan couldn't shake Riley from his thoughts. They kept running into each other outside the library, at the coffee shop, in the quad. Each time, the air crackled with unspoken tension. Riley seemed to sense it too, their smiles lingering a little longer, their words carrying a weight Ethan couldn't quite grasp. One evening, Ethan found himself at a campus open mic night, dragged along by his roommate, Sam. Riley was there, performing a spoken word piece that hit like a punch. Their words wove a story of identity, of fighting to be seen, of loving fiercely in a world that didn't always love back. Ethan sat in the dark, heart pounding, feeling like Riley was speaking directly to him. After the performance, he found them outside, leaning against a brick wall, staring at the stars. "That was incredible," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. Riley turned, their expression unguarded for once. "Thanks. It's just me, you know. Putting it out there." They paused, then added, "You ever feel like you're hiding something, even from yourself?" Ethan's breath caught. He wanted to say yes, to spill everything, the confusion, the fear, the pull he felt toward Riley. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he nodded, and Riley's hand found his, this time deliberate. "You don't have to figure it all out tonight," they said. "But when you're ready, I'm here." The moment stretched, fragile and perfect. Ethan didn't know what he was ready for, but he knew one thing. Riley was the first person who made him want to find out. Ethan lay awake that night, the glow of his phone screen casting shadows across his dorm room. Riley's words echoed in his head, "When you're ready, I'm here." He'd never felt so exposed, so seen, and it scared him as much as it thrilled him. Growing up, he'd learned to keep his feelings small, safe, acceptable. But Riley was a storm, tearing through those walls with every glance, every touch. The next morning, he spotted them in the cafeteria, their blue hair a beacon in the crowd. Riley waved him over, and Ethan's heart raced as he slid into the seat across from them. "You look like you didn't sleep," Riley teased, pushing a coffee toward him. "Couldn't," Ethan admitted, his voice low. "Your poem, it got to me." He didn't say the rest, that it made him question everything he'd buried, that it made him want to be brave. Riley's eyes softened. "Good. It was supposed to." They leaned forward, their voice dropping. "You ever think about what you'd say if you could be completely honest? No filters, no fear." Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to tell them about the nights he'd spent wondering why he felt different, why certain glances from guys in high school had left him flustered, why he'd pushed it all down. But instead, he said, "I'm trying. It's just hard." Riley reached across the table, their fingers brushing his wrist. "It's okay to take your time, Ethan. But don't hide forever. You're too good for that." That weekend, Ethan joined Riley and their friends for a hike in the hills outside campus. The group was eclectic artists, activists, dreamers, and Ethan felt out of place at first, his small-town roots clashing with their easy confidence. But Riley kept him close, their banter pulling him out of his shell. They climbed to a lookout point, the city sprawling below, and sat on a rocky outcrop, shoulders brushing. "You ever been in love?" Riley asked suddenly, their tone casual but their eyes sharp. Ethan's cheeks burned. "I don't know. Maybe not. You." Riley smirked, but there was a flicker of something deeper. "Once. It was messy, beautiful, and it broke my heart. But I'd do it again." They turned to him, their gaze piercing. What about you, Ethan? What's your heart saying? He wanted to say it was screaming their name, but fear clamped his mouth shut. Instead, he mumbled, I'm still figuring it out. Riley didn't push, but their hand lingered on his. A quiet promise. As weeks passed, Ethan and Riley grew inseparable. Study sessions turned into late-night talks, their conversations weaving through dreams, fears, and the weight of who they were. Ethan learned Riley had grown up in a progressive Seattle family, but even they had struggled with acceptance at times. It's not just about coming out, Riley said one night, sprawled on Ethan's dorm room floor. It's about living out. Every day, you choose who you're going to be. Ethan envied their courage. He was still wrestling with his own truth, the word bisexual hovering in his mind like a secret he wasn't ready to claim. But with Riley, he felt closer to it than ever. They didn't demand answers. They just made space for him to exist. One rainy afternoon, they ended up at a campus art gallery, ducking in to escape a downpour. The exhibit was bold paintings and sculptures exploring identity, love, and resistance. Riley stopped at a piece depicting two figures intertwined, their forms abstract but their connection undeniable. This is us, Riley said, half joking, half serious. Messy, beautiful, real. Ethan's heart pounded. You think we're something? Riley turned, their eyes locking with his. I know we are. The question is, do you? He didn't answer, not with words. But when Riley stepped closer, their breath warm against his cheek, Ethan didn't pull away. Their lips met, tentative at first, then fierce, like a dam breaking. The kiss was everything soft, urgent, terrifying, perfect. When they parted, Ethan was trembling, but he didn't care. For the first time, he felt free. The kiss changed everything. Ethan walked back to his dorm in a daze, the rain soaking through his jacket, Riley's taste still lingering on his lips. He'd kissed people before, girls in high school, fumbling and unsure, but this was different. This was Riley. This was real. The next day, he avoided them. Not because he didn't want to see them, God. He did, but because the weight of what he felt was crushing. He'd spent years dodging this part of himself, convincing himself it was a phase, a mistake. Now, Riley had blown that lie wide open, and Ethan wasn't sure he was ready to face it. He buried himself in schoolwork, skipping the usual spots where he might run into Riley. But by Wednesday, guilt gnawed at him. He found them outside the lecture hall, their expression unreadable. You ghosting me, Carter? Riley asked, their tone light, but their eyes sharp. No, Ethan lied, then sighed. I just needed to think. Riley stepped closer, their voice low. About what? Us. Or you? Both, he admitted. I don't know what I am. Riley, I like you a lot. But it's scary as hell. Riley's face softened. It's supposed to be scary. That's how you know it matters. They reached for his hand. And this time, Ethan didn't pull away. Let's figure it out together. Okay. They started spending every spare moment together, stealing kisses in empty stairwells, sharing earbuds on late-night walks. Ethan was falling, hard, and it felt like flying and drowning all at once. But the world wasn't as kind as Riley's arms. Whispers followed them, some curious, some cruel. Ethan noticed the looks, the way some classmates avoided his gaze. He told himself it didn't matter, but it did. One night, at a campus party, things boiled over. A guy from Ethan's computer science class, Derek, cornered him by the keg. Didn't peg you for the type, Carter. Derek slurred, his voice loud enough to draw eyes. You and that, whatever they are. You serious? Ethan's fists clenched. Back off. Derek. Riley appeared, their presence steadying Ethan like an anchor. Problem? They asked, their tone calm but edged with steel. Derek sneered. Just didn't think Ethan was into that. Riley stepped forward, eyes blazing. Into what? People who don't suck. Come on, Ethan. Let's go. They pulled him away, but the words lingered. A poison Ethan couldn't shake. Outside, under the streetlights, Ethan's voice broke. Does it ever stop? The judgment. Riley's jaw tightened. Not always. But you learn to live louder than their hate. They cupped his face, their touch grounding him. You're enough, Ethan. Just as you are. Ethan started opening up, bit by bit. He told Riley about his hometown, about the father who called him weak, the mother who prayed he'd be normal. Riley listened, never judging, and shared their own scars, rejection from old friends, the struggle to claim their identity. Together, they built something fragile but fierce, a space where they could both be whole. But doubt crept in. Ethan's scholarship required a high GPA, and the pressure was relentless. He started pulling back, skipping dates to study, telling himself it was for his future. Riley noticed, their texts growing shorter, their smiles tighter. One night, they confronted him outside his dorm. Are you in this or not? Riley asked, their voice raw. Because I can't keep chasing someone who's running away. I'm not running, Ethan said, but his voice shook. I need to focus. My family's counting on me. Riley's eyes glistened. And what about you? What do you want? Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. The silence between Ethan and Riley stretched into days. Ethan threw himself into his studies, but every line of code, every lecture, felt hollow. He missed Riley, their laugh, their fearless honesty, the way they made him feel alive. But fear kept him tethered. Fear of failing, of disappointing his family, of stepping fully into who he was. He saw Riley around campus, always at a distance. They were still vibrant, still surrounded by friends, but their eyes didn't seek him out anymore. It hurt more than he expected. He'd pushed them away, and now he was paying the price. One evening, Sam, his roommate, dragged him to a campus drag show, a fundraiser for the LGBTQ+ Alliance. Ethan went reluctantly, but the energy in the room was infectious glitter. Music, unapologetic joy. Then Riley took the stage, not as a performer, but as the MC, their voice commanding the crowd with warmth and wit. Ethan couldn't look away. They were a force, and he'd been a fool to let them slip away. After the show, he found them backstage, adjusting a microphone stand. Riley, he started, his voice barely audible over the chatter. They turned, their expression guarded. What do you want, Ethan? I messed up, he said, the words spilling out. I got scared, and I pushed you away, and I'm so sorry. I want phthisis. I want to be brave, like you. Riley's eyes searched his, and for a moment, he thought they'd walk away. But then they stepped closer, their voice soft. Bravery's not a one-time thing, Ethan. It's every day. You ready for that? He nodded, his throat tight. I'm trying. For you. For me. Riley's smile was small but real. Then let's start over. No running this time. They rebuilt slowly, deliberately. Ethan opened up more, sharing pieces of himself he'd kept hidden. He told Riley about the first time he'd felt different, a crush on a high school teammate he'd never dared name. Riley shared their own journey, the pain and triumph of claiming their identity. Each confession brought them closer, their bond deepening with every shared truth. But the world kept pushing back. Ethan's parents called, their voices heavy with expectation. "You're not getting distracted, are you?" his father asked, the word dripping with judgment. Ethan lied, said he was fine, but the call left him shaken. He wanted to tell them about Riley, about who he was becoming, but the thought of their rejection was a knife in his chest. Riley noticed his mood, pulling him aside after a late-night study session. "Talk to me," they said, their hand warm on his. Ethan spilled everything: the pressure, the fear, the longing to be enough. Riley listened, then pulled him into a hug. "You don't have to be their version of perfect," they whispered. "You're already mine." The campus talent show loomed, a chance to reclaim the stage where they'd first met. Ethan and Riley decided to perform together, a breakdance routine that blended their styles as power, their grace. They practiced for weeks, their bodies moving in perfect sync, their trust rebuilding with every step. The night of the show, the auditorium was packed. Ethan's nerves buzzed, but Riley's steady presence grounded him. As the music started, they moved as one, their dance a story of struggle and connection. The crowd roared, but Ethan only saw Riley, their smile, their fire, their heart. When the music stopped, they stood breathless, hands clasped, the spotlight warm on their faces. The applause was deafening, but Ethan barely heard it. He pulled Riley close, whispering, "I'm all in." Riley's eyes shone. "Good. Because I'm not letting you go." The talent show marked a turning point. Ethan and Riley were no longer just a spark, they were a flame, burning bright against the doubts and fears that had once held Ethan back. They walked across campus hand in hand, unafraid of the stares, their love a quiet rebellion against a world that didn't always understand. But love, Ethan learned, wasn't a shield. Classes grew harder, his scholarship requirements tighter. He spent late nights in the library, his eyes burning from screens and stress. Riley was there, bringing him coffee, quizzing him on code. But Ethan could feel the strain. He was stretching himself thin, trying to be the perfect student, the perfect son, the perfect partner. One night, Riley dragged him to a campus bonfire, insisting he needed a break. The flames crackled, casting shadows on their faces as they sat close, sharing a blanket. "You're killing yourself, Ethan," Riley said, their voice gentle but firm. "You can't be everything to everyone." "I have to," he said, his voice tight. "If I fail, I lose everything: my scholarship, my future, my family's respect." Riley's hand found his, their grip steady. "You won't lose me. That's enough, isn't it?" Ethan wanted to say yes, but the weight of his parents' expectations pressed down. He leaned into Riley, their warmth anchoring him, but doubt lingered. Could he really have it all? The holidays approached, and with them, a trip home. Ethan dreaded it. He hadn't told his parents about Riley, about who he was. Every phone call was a tightrope walk, dodging their questions, burying his truth. Riley offered to come with him, but Ethan refused. "I need to do this alone," he said, though the thought terrified him. Home was exactly as he remembered: small, stifling, familiar. His parents were proud but distant, their praise laced with pressure. "You're our ticket out," his father said over dinner, his voice heavy. "Don't let us down." Ethan nodded, his stomach twisting. He wanted to tell them about Riley, about the love that made him feel whole, but the words died in his throat. Instead, he texted Riley late at night, their messages a lifeline. "I miss you," he wrote. "I'm scared." "You're braver than you think," Riley replied. "I'm here when you get back." Back at Westbridge, Ethan threw himself into Riley's world. They took him to a queer poetry slam, where voices rang out with pain and pride. Ethan felt a spark of courage, a desire to claim his place in this community. He started attending LGBTQ plus alliance meetings. Nervous at first, but warmed by the acceptance he found. Riley beamed, proud but never pushing, letting him find his own pace. One night, after a meeting, they ended up on the roof of the arts building, the city lights sprawling below. Ethan took a deep breath. "I think I'm bisexual," he said, the word feeling both foreign and right. "I've known for a while, but saying it makes it real." Riley's smile was radiant. "It's always been real, Ethan. You're just catching up." They kissed him, slow and deep, and for the first time, Ethan felt like he belonged not just to Riley, but to himself. But the world wasn't done testing them. A week later, Ethan got a call from his mother. "We saw your pictures online," she said, her voice cold. "Who's that person you're with?" Ethan's heart stopped. He wasn't ready. Not yet. Ethan's phone felt like a grenade in his hand. His mother's voice echoed in his head, sharp and accusing. "Who's that person you're with?" He stammered through the call, claiming Riley was just a friend. But the lie tasted bitter. When he hung up, he felt like he'd betrayed Riley. Himself. Everyone. He found Riley at their usual spot in the quad, sitting under an oak tree with a sketchbook. "My parents know," he said, his voice shaking. "They saw us online. I didn't. I couldn't tell them." Riley's face fell, but they reached for his hand. "It's okay, Ethan. Coming out's not a race. You do it when you're ready." "But I'm not," he said, his voice breaking. "I want to be, but I'm terrified they'll cut me off. No tuition, no scholarship, nothing." Riley's eyes were steady. "And if they do, you're still you. You're still enough." Ethan wanted to believe them, but fear was a vice around his heart. He pulled away, needing space, needing time. Riley let him go, but their hurt lingered in the air. The next few weeks were a storm. Ethan's grades slipped, his focus fractured by the weight of his secret. His parents' calls grew more frequent, their questions sharper. He avoided Riley, not because he didn't love them, but because every moment with them reminded him of the choice he wasn't ready to make. One night, he found himself at the dance studio, alone, the mirrors reflecting his restless energy. He moved, letting the music drown out his thoughts. But it wasn't enough. The door creaked open, and Riley stood there, their expression a mix of worry and determination. "You can't keep running, Ethan," they said, stepping inside. "Not from me. Not from yourself." "I'm not running," he snapped, but his voice cracked. "I'm trying to survive." Riley crossed the room, their eyes fierce. "Surviving isn't living. You're tearing yourself apart, and it's killing me to watch." Ethan sank to the floor, head in his hands. "I don't know how to do this. Riley, I love you, but I'm so scared of losing everything." Riley knelt beside him, their hand on his shoulder. "You won't lose me. But you have to choose what matters most, your fear or your truth." Ethan spent the next day in a fog, Riley's words echoing. He knew they were right, but the thought of facing his parents, of risking their support, felt like stepping off a cliff. He called his older sister, Miah, the only person he'd ever trusted with his doubts. She listened as he poured out everything Riley, his feelings, his fear. "You're not alone, Ethan," Miah said. "Mom and Dad, they might not get it right away, but they love you. And if they don't, you've got me. You've got Riley." Her words were a lifeline. That night, Ethan wrote a letter to his parents, his hands shaking as he typed. "I'm bisexual. I'm in love with someone amazing, and their name is Riley. I'm still your son, but I'm also me." He didn't send it not yet, but writing it felt like a step toward freedom. He found Riley at the coffee shop, their head bent over a book. "I wrote something," he said, sliding into the seat across from them. For my parents. I'm not ready to send it, but I want to be. Riley's smile was everything. That's enough for now, they said, reaching for his hand. I'm proud of you. The letter sat on Ethan's laptop, unsent, a weight he carried everywhere. Every time he opened it, his heart raced, but Riley's faith in him kept him grounded. They were his anchor, his reason to keep pushing forward, even when fear threatened to pull him under. Spring semester brought new challenges. Ethan's scholarship review loomed, his grades teetering on the edge. Riley helped him study, their patience endless, but the pressure was relentless. One night, exhausted and frayed, Ethan snapped at them over a missed quiz question. Can you just back off? I need to do this alone. Riley's face tightened, but they didn't argue. I'm here when you need me, they said, leaving him to his books. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan hated himself for pushing them away, but he didn't know how to stop. The Campus Pride Festival was a burst of color and chaos, a celebration of identity that Ethan both craved and feared. Riley was everywhere helping organize, performing poetry, laughing with friends. Ethan watched from the sidelines, wanting to join but held back by the weight of his unsent letter. During a quiet moment, Riley found him, their expression serious. You're slipping away again, they said. I can't keep fighting for us alone. Ethan's throat tightened. I'm trying, Riley. I'm just stuck. Then let me help you get unstuck, they said, their voice soft but urgent. You don't have to do this alone. That night, Ethan opened the letter again. He read it, hands trembling, and hit send before he could change his mind. The world didn't end. His phone didn't ring. But the act of sending it, of claiming his truth, felt like shedding a skin he'd outgrown. His parents' response came 2 days later, a call, not an email. His mother's voice was strained, his father's silent. We need time, she said. This is a lot. Ethan's heart sank, but he held on to Riley's words. You're enough. He told his parents he loved them, that he hoped they'd understand, and hung up. Riley was there when he broke down, their arms a safe haven. You did it, they whispered. You're so damn brave. Ethan shook his head. I don't feel brave. I feel like I'm falling apart. Then fall apart with me, Riley said, their voice fierce. I've got you. They spent the night talking, crying, laughing, rebuilding. Ethan realized that love wasn't just the spark, it was the choice to stay, to fight, to be vulnerable. Riley was worth that fight. The weeks after the call were a tightrope walk. Ethan's parents didn't disown him, but their conversations were stilted, cautious. He leaned on Riley, on Miah, on the community he'd found at Westbridge. Slowly, he started to believe he could build a life that was his own, not defined by others' expectations. The end of the semester brought the annual Spring Talent Showcase, a full-circle moment for Ethan and Riley. They decided to perform again, a new breakdance routine that told their story: struggle, love, triumph. They practiced until their bodies ached, their movements a language of trust and resilience. The night of the showcase, the auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Ethan felt the familiar nerves, but this time, they didn't paralyze him. Riley stood beside him backstage, their hand in his, their eyes steady. We've got this, they said, and Ethan believed them. The music started, and they moved as one, their dance a celebration of everything they'd fought for. Ethan spun, Riley flowed, their bodies telling a story of two souls finding each other against all odds. The crowd roared, but Ethan only saw Riley, their smile, their strength, their love. When the music stopped, they stood center stage, breathless, hands clasped. Ethan pulled Riley close, kissing them in front of everyone. unashamed and unafraid. The applause was thunderous, but the real victory was theirs alone. After the show, they sat on the quad, the night air cool against their skin. Ethan's parents had sent a text, a small step. But a step. We're trying to understand. We love you. It wasn't everything, but it was enough for now. Riley leaned against him, their head on his shoulder. You ever think about that first dance? They asked. How it started all this? Ethan smiled, his heart full. Every day? It was the best challenge I ever took. They sat in silence, the stars above them bright and endless. Ethan didn't have all the answers about his family, his future, himself. But he had Riley, and he had his truth. That was enough. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was real, a spark that had grown into a flame that could weather any storm. And as they held each other, Ethan knew they'd face whatever came next together.